everybody. Paul Richards here with PTZOptics, and every Friday we have a live show. I have Martin Sinclair with me. Martin, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
I'm guessing a lot of people know who you are, but for those who do not, Martin is the CEO of vMix. vMix is a live streaming software, and we are going to dig into the industry trends, what we saw at NAB New York. I'm going to invite Martin to the lightning round, which is a fun little 60-second tutorial to get to know Martin. But before we get started with all that, first of all, PTZOptics is live on YouTube every Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. It's a 20-minute show, and after 20 minutes, we have an open Q&A where Martin and I will answer all of your questions to the best of our capabilities. Every live show we donate to charity. The charity that we donate to is the Susquehanna Valley CASA, which is a court-appointed special advocacy system helping children who may not have families who are in the court system, helping them get adoptions and get out of the court system hopefully as quick as possible. So if you hit that like button and hit that subscribe button, we actually add an additional $1 up to $250 every week. 2 weeks ago, we looked at the Wirecast gear. Last week, we met with Mark Gilbert, and we looked at the Sienna NDI, which is allowing NDI to go over the wide area network, over the public area network. Pretty cool stuff. And I had this question mark because I wasn't sure if we were going to get Martin on the show, but we did, and I'm super happy. And next week is Thanksgiving, so we will not have a show next week, but we have a really great show lineup for December. And then in January, we're interviewing the Humane Society, and they are going to show us how they do live rescue missions. One of them is in South Korea, where they're actually helping to save dogs who are being chopped up for dog meat live on YouTube. I mean, it's crazy. I cannot wait for that show. But Martin, I wanted to start by showing your booth at the NAB New York show, because I thought it would be a good way to kind of show off your latest and greatest stuff. Do you want to kind of explain what you were showing off here?
Well, I can't see the videos, so...
Oh, you can't? I'm sorry. Let me show... you will now. Sorry.
Oh, there we go. Great. So yeah, we're just showing out in our booth how we had two different setups at NAB New York. We had a PC system based on our reference specifications. We had the X-Keys T-bar model, which is the one there with lots of buttons to program and do everything you want in your production. And then also we had a laptop setup that was using a capture box from AJ that allows you to do 4 cameras. So we had those two setups going. We had NDI to bring the cameras between them both, which was really really great. Just ran flawlessly throughout the week. So yeah, that was just pretty much it for NAB New York. Had a lot of interesting people come by the booth. Lots of questions, lots of feature requests. And the great thing about that laptop, as well as I mentioned in the video, is it's got the desktop graphics. It's got the 1060 NVIDIA graphics, which is just really amazing. So you can now do on a laptop a really powerful production with lots of inputs, lots of multi-views, lots of graphics. So that was really cool to show as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great show. It was a lot of fun. New York City Secret Security, or what is it? Secret Service was there.
That's right.
Blocking us from every way to get in the Javits Center. It was we were there on election day. I mean, it was kind of crazy. What can I say? But before we start the show, where we're really going to get into all the details and ask a bunch of great questions and hopefully inform everyone about this new emerging live streaming market, but also potentially this broadcast market that's changing so quickly, I want to get into the lightning round. So let's get started. Okay, so 60 seconds. I'm going to ask you a couple questions. Martin, get ready. Coffee or tea?
Neither. Fanta. I drink a lot of soda.
Sounds good to me. Talking or texting?
Texting for sure. You can text somebody back anytime. When you're on the call, you have to come up with an answer then and there, and that. Like this lightning round, I don't work well with sudden responses. I'm doing my best.
iPhone or Android?
Android, of course.
And I guess I don't have to ask Windows or PC. That's obviously Windows for you.
I've got an LG G4, which is, well, the battery's dying on it, but I'll get a new phone soon. But it'll be Android as well.
Last question. If you had 24 hours to go back and watch 24 hours of the world unfold anytime in the world, anywhere, as a ghost, where would you go?
Well, I liked Andrew Cross's answer. Why can't I go in this time machine and go into the future? I'd like to see even 10 years into the future and see what's happening.
Honestly, that's a good point. You can go to the future if you want.
So there you go.
All right, so we're going to start. We have 60 seconds for each agenda topic. We're going to start assuming, and I know a lot of people in the chat room know a lot about vMix, but let's assume they know nothing about vMix. Who is vMix?
vMix is live streaming and production software for the PC. Install the software on the PC and it can do everything you could possibly think of in live production, such as bringing in your cameras, bringing in video clips, graphics, creating multi-shots of multiple cameras and sources. You can bring in desktop captures, so you can capture things like Zoom and Skype. Just so many different things in your production. And once you've got that going, you can then stream it to your favorite provider or multiple providers. And you can also do a high quality recording to upload to YouTube after. So in addition to all of that, vMix has things like instant replay and just so many different features that allow anybody that's doing from sports to podcasts to concerts to live events, they can use vMix to do that, and just using an ordinary laptop or PC.
Yeah, and I mean, even people doing video conferencing, I know, use vMix as I do, just to get that chroma key feature. There's so many features in there. I'm using my new X keys. Oh, it's so easy to switch between these. I used to search around, so now all I have to do is hit a button. Boop! What's new with vMix 17 and 18?
So vMix 17 introduced PTZ support back at NAB. So we support the PTZ or PTZOptics cameras directly from within vMix, which means what you can do is you can set up where you want the camera to point, and you can create virtual inputs. So all you have to do is point and click on those inputs, and the camera will automatically move to that position ready to go live. And in addition to that, we added NDI support. NDI is just a way of sharing broadcast quality, low latency video across any NDI compatible system on the network. So you can bring in graphics from graphics generating systems, or you can link vMix systems together. So many different possibilities with NDI. I'm trying to run through this as quickly as possible. In vMix 18, we introduced data sources. Now you can link spreadsheets, CSV files, Excel, XML files into your production. And we also have support for activating lights on MIDI controllers and X keys, so that lights can turn on or off in response to something in vMix, such as when you're streaming or not streaming.
Thank you for going through that so quickly. I imagine that most of the vMix people out there know exactly what all of that is. They've heard it before, but we're kind of pretending high level that people here, there are definitely some people here who are new to vMix. So the new PC specifications, and I want to kind of start this conversation off by saying that we sort of saw this happen. We saw this happen in the video conferencing industry, where a lot of hardware manufacturers like Cisco and Polycom were basically creating proprietary systems, even though potentially they were using Windows in the background for really expensive prices. And then what happened is that Skype and GoToMeeting and WebEx and all these softwares ended up replacing these companies in droves. And people are just using PCs, right? So I feel like I'm seeing some similarities here. Explain to me what's going on with this new PC specification that you've created.
So they're called reference systems, and we've gone and built systems at different price points for different applications, just standard PC builds, and then we've published them on our website. So customers, using as vMix is software for the PC, they may not know what PC they want. They could. The guide on our website helps them figure out, oh, this is a system I need for streaming, or this is a system I need for replay. And then we sort of take advantage of our existing reseller network. So resellers out there, we have a lot of them already on board that's saying, yes, we'll build these PC systems to their specifications. But beyond that, it's why they're called reference systems, you can expand the capabilities of these.
Mm-hmm.
You can go to a reseller and say, hey, I know this system here can do 8 inputs, but I want you to build me something that can do 16 cameras or something, or it can do 4K or just anything they can think of. And the resellers can go, great, we'll start with the reference system and we will expand on it to allow you to meet your requirements. And I think that's what the flexibility is of the reference systems. You can build PCs to spec. Somebody that's doing a stream from a church is going to have different requirements to somebody that is doing an 8-camera production for a concert. So I think having these systems allows customers to get the best value by building a system for exactly what they need. And of course, they can upgrade it in the future as well. But for those that know, we used to have, we still have until the end of the year, the vMix Go and the vMix U. These are turnkey systems we built a year or so back. We still have them available for sale. So for those that are really excited about the vMix Go, the vMix U, and the vMix Control Surface, get your orders in as soon as possible. We'll still be selling those right up until the end of the year. But if you're a PC builder and you want to build your own system or you want something custom, you can also contact our resellers and have that done as well using the new vMix reference systems.
Yeah, personally, I think it's a genius idea, but I will say as we segment into Streaming Media West and NAB New York, to be completely honest, some people I was talking to were saying, oh, vMix is out of the hardware game. That's great. You know, now we can sell more TriCasters or whatever the competition is selling. But I say you're making the right move and you're enabling your partners to build PCs. But I will say it's a crazy world. People want turnkey appliances. You know, people want that SKU that B&H can just ship out of their store to the person that needs it. So you're playing a risky game, but I think you're on the right track. Tell us, what are the industry trends that you saw at Streaming Media West and NAB New York?
Well, of course, I guess the headline features of those shows were things like VR and 360. But I see those as more exciting features. They get people into the shows. But then when people are at the shows, they're thinking practically, well, what do I need for my actual business or my application? And I think in the practical level, IP video is starting to become extremely exciting, especially with NDI. We have people come by our booth and go, oh, you know, we have this, they come to me with a question, oh, we have this really challenging application. And they think, oh, this is going to be hard. vMix is not going to be able to do it, is it? And I go, well, with NDI, it can. People want to be able to separate their production into 2, 3, 4 PCs, depending on what they want to do. Want to have different sources here, Skype here, Zoom there. And with NDI, they can do all of that. So I think IP production is the less exciting than VR and 360, but the far more practical solution that everybody can get a benefit out of when doing streaming and live production. So that's what I saw at both of those shows.
Yeah, I saw the same thing. I mean, I had a lot of people come up to our booth and say, where's your 360 camera? Or where's the 360 video? And I was like, it's over there. Or there's the virtual reality. They're excited about that. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to, all right, I need this to work and I need it to stream today, there's much more practical things out there. So what was I going to say? Oh, yeah, and with the NDI, I remember at the very beginning when NewTek first came out with it, all of their salespeople were saying, all those times when people were asking for this, this, and this, and I had to say it doesn't really work, now we can just say yes. And it's opened up so many doors. Probably don't have the time to talk about all of the things that NDI is capable of, but I'd like to talk about some industry trends. So we talked about kind of what we saw in the industry. If we're looking forward a little more, IP video, you already support NewTek NDI, you already support RTS streaming, you already support streaming to multiple CDNs. It seems like now you're just really just buttoning up little things like web browser input, data sources, which I think is a huge thing for you. I think you could do stuff in the digital signage world with that. So I wonder what trends are you seeing? Are you seeing people, is the live streaming market a big trend? Is Twitter now a big trend? What are you seeing? Because you probably get a better insight than most of us.
Yeah, well, that's really fascinating. I mean, from the beginning, vMix has sort of been a Swiss Army knife of production. So we see it used in so many different applications that I see so many different industry trends all around the place. But the big trend, I guess, is people may not necessarily be streaming to Facebook Live, but it's opened them up to the idea. Now they're exposed, anyone that's on Facebook is exposed to the idea of live streaming in the mainstream, whereas they sort of had to seek it out in the past. So I think that's opened a lot of people's eyes just to, well, how can I use streaming in my business? Whereas previously there'd be, not really, they'd see a stream here and there, or they might watch a concert that's a live stream, or they might watch a podcast, but it's sort of over there, and they never really thought, oh, that's something I would do myself. Now people with Facebook Live are really considering, doing live streaming themselves. I think that's the main industry trend. Just streaming everywhere is what I would say.
I think you're totally right. And I actually meant to bring a piece of video that I don't have, but when I was in New York last week, and you were too, I went down to Times Square, and they were live streaming the election coverage in Times Square on Facebook. But Facebook also had all the real estate, all the giant LED displays were saying, if you want to live stream a street performer, here's how. Go to Facebook, click, be in Times Square, check, click go, and you have the right to that content. It's yours. You're in Times Square. You're allowed to film. Like, they're just empowering people on the street to start live streaming. And I can't wait. I mean, we're both in a great position. Anyone in the live streaming and broadcast industry is ready for a big change. And I want to show, I almost forgot to show this slide here before we go to the next slide. This is something that I've been showing for about 2 years now. And I think 2 years ago we were in the innovation stage. Well, maybe we were in the early adopter stage still. But I think I'm ready to move that little red arrow over to the early majority. Ever since Facebook jumped on, like you said, and now Twitter, do you think we're ready for this? Is it about to jump into the early majority where everyone's grandma's doing it too?
I think Facebook Live has put it into the early majority for sure. Perhaps it's put a sudden leap in saturation of live streaming. Everybody's trying it out right now. So I think maybe we're at that peak of that curve in the sense that everybody's trying it out, but eventually over the next year or so, people realize, well, what do I actually need to use the streaming for in my business or in my hobby, in my gaming? Game streaming has in particular just gone crazy. If you see the viewer numbers of Twitch, they surpass every other live streaming platform out there on the internet. So gaming is streaming in gaming is bigger than everything else combined, even Facebook Live. But I see, that saturation is there now. People are now going to think, well, how can I make money off this for businesses, particularly? How can I monetize, as the word goes, their live streaming, or how does this practically fit in? A lot of people are trying it, but I think now we're in almost at the maturing stage of live streaming. People are working out how it best fits them. So I'd say, 2 years ago, when you first pointed out that graph, I think we were at that early stage of it, the innovators and the early adopters. Now I think if we're not already, we're at the end of or in the middle of the early majority.
Wow. Because I was going to say at the beginning, but I feel like you would know better than me. Let's talk about the broadcast market versus the live streaming market. Because, we've had a lot of people on the show. Everyone seems to have an opinion. I'd love to hear from you because you offer software at $60 all the way up to 4K, camera control, NDI, all these, like up to really high level broadcasting. So you really have a really good idea of everything in between there. Can you kind of describe what's happening in these two different spaces? Because I feel like they're very different spaces, but there's a lot going on in both.
Well, I look at the example of what's happening in the broadcast industry is the NAB show. National Association of Broadcasters is an organization that's traditionally represented, at the start of the 20th century, they were radio. And then when TV came on the scene, they were TV. But I think the National Association of Broadcasters has now adopted this whole streaming thing as well. If you just look at the booths on the show as well. So I think broadcast, if we look at the traditional broadcasters, we're talking about TV stations, things like that. But now we're seeing non-traditional broadcast as well, which is what live streaming essentially is. So I would put it out there that we need to redefine broadcast as any time you are sending out video and audio to an audience. That should be broadcast, in my opinion. So that covers the whole live streaming industry then. And then I think you'll see a shake-up in the broadcast industry. It's already happened already. where now everybody is able to essentially do their own TV show, just like, you know, this show right now. You couldn't have done that really 10 years ago, or you could have, but you wouldn't have been able to create an audience. I think that is the real, you know, big shift in broadcast, and why the traditional definition of broadcast doesn't mean anything anymore. So I think we're just going to see more and more streaming become a much larger part of shows like the NAB show in Las Vegas and NAB New York. We're going to see streaming become the dominant means of broadcasting around the world.
I totally agree. Let's skip the PTZOptics integration because we're already going over IP integration, camera control. It's great. You guys can ask questions in the chat room if you'd like. In the future, one of the things I wanted to mention was that, you know, it seems like technically, if I had to say broadcast versus live streaming, broadcasters, the people who are like monetizing it, they have advertisers, they're being paid to make this. Live streamers are going out. I would consider myself a live streamer. No one's paying me to make this show, but there's obviously a financial gain because it's marketing, right? So that's kind of how I would kind of categorize it if I had to. Any last remarks before we go into the Q&A?
No, I'd say I agree. Yeah, it could be a case of, hey, broadcasters are the ones that are advertising or directly monetizing it. Live streamers are using non-traditional ways, such as marketing or promotion or things like that. So,
all right, well, I'm going to run the credits, and then we will join back in the post-show, so hang out for a second. Oops. Here we go. There should be audio.